Hello and welcome back to another episode of Supercoach Insider. My name is Ben,
And I'm Chris.
And I'm Swizz.
and thank you for joining us. This is the horrible mid-buy round. It's absolutely anarchy. I don't even know if I got a full squad this week, boys. But before we go on, please do like, subscribe, follow us, SC Insider 100. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Also, all the audio platforms as well. So Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, you name it. And on the YouTube, Chris.
Yeah, search for Supercoach Insider. And for tonight, I'm just going to give myself a bit of a plug before we move on to Swizzo. I'll be joining the Jock Reynolds podcast tomorrow for the mailbag. So hit them up as well tomorrow night. And if you want to get any questions personally answered, then hit up the mailbag. So, everything kicking off well. How you going, Swizz? How's your team, buddy?
Mate, team's good, mate. Listen to you branching out onto other podcasts and that.
Oh, I got to, man, because my team's so shit right now. It's all I've got.
What? It's nice of them to get the number 2 online occasionally, boys.
But Ben, there's
What,
no
Jock
way
Reynolds? I did that weeks ago.
There's no
mate.
way you're number 3.
Sweet.
Hey, I'll take a number 2 on you in a second. I am having a nice little start off with the Splash Vodka. I've got to hit up Fab and see if we can get our man Swizz some lovely splashvodka.com.au. Also some other things in the works as well, but we'll get onto that shortly. Now, pretty much I think the main topic for today, and a lot of the conundrums kind of go around, is it worth burning 2 trades, 3 trades, who to get in to fill your side? Where are these premium forwards at? Oh, they have the buy. So what are you going to do if you need an upgrade? And kind of going around a little bit of the strategy on that, covering most of the sort of main topics for today. And then we'll get into our team specifics later in the week. I don't know about Swizz. Swizz, you'll probably do yours maybe on the Wednesday. I'm probably going to do mine Thursday because there's no relevant teams playing Thursday night, boys.
I might even do mine straight after this, to be completely honest. And that I've got enough questions to fire up. So you guys seem to get more listens because you go earlier. So I might try to fire mine up this week. Right. Talking about listens.
Oh, Swizz.
No,
Swizz
Chris,
coming in with the real...
you've been on fire, Chris. So everybody wants to see the muscles there of yours, mate. But
that's true.
Talking about shout-outs, they got stopped on the platform the other day by Keith, who's been listening, and he was telling me that he was at a get-together, and they were talking about our podcast. I think it was with Richard and some boys there. So to Keith and Richard, keep listening, and thank you so much.
Is his name really Richard, or are you just like, oh, Keith Richard? Yeah, that
Keith
sounds
Richards,
about right.
Yeah. No, mate, topic of conversation at get-togethers now, so I think that's pretty cool.
Boys, we're party famous.
Yes,
people just want to talk about us. They just want to talk about us. They just want to, be
when they're about
ambiance.
10 beers deep, and they, the parties, the talk starts to get to. Oh, so who are you trading in tonight, boys?
That's right.
That's our claim to fame.
That's it.
I love it.
Pretty much. Now, I don't know about you boys, but I'm getting smashed with messages because it gets to that time of year where there's a little bit of uncertainty. We can't reply to everyone, unfortunately, so it is one of those conundrums that we all faced with. But let's have a look at, now it's hard with rookies because it is dependent on who gets named. Now, for me, I'll take any rookie that's named this week. Give me 3 rookies. Anyone that is actually named. Defender rookie. So was it Weir?
Yeah.
Where did he come from? Where did he go? Play round 13. That's all I care about. I don't need anyone beyond this week. I need some blood. I need some fresh paint on the field. I need someone there, a warm body, anybody on my field. So I'm hoping Owens can also get named. I think he has a really good chance too if you don't have him already. Chris lucked out there. I think you already held him the whole year.
Lucked out. Mate, I knew that this would be the time for Owens to shine. Hey, girls. So, yeah. Hello. These are the 2 little ones. This is Charlotte and this is Elizabeth for those playing at home.
Chris has got a fan club.
Do you want to wave?
Shout out as well to my
Who are they trading in this week? Girls, who are you trading in this week?
I don't think they're playing Supercoach, guys, but if they did, they would also be trading in where?
Actually, they're trading Chris for a younger, taller, more attractive model. Chris is the stepping stone. I heard they're looking for.
I told you I'm
type.
5'8.5". Is that not good enough for you people? Exactly right.
That's just laying down.
So just quickly, so I've actually kind of screwed myself this week, boys, because without unintentionally doing it a few weeks ago, thinking I was being, the Nostradamus of trading that I am. I accidentally left myself in a position where this week the only rookies that I can bring into my team means that I actually have 7 defenders playing, so I can't actually get the 19 players that I've got to be able to play onto the park, I can only get 18 because the 17th, the 19th is on the 7th on the bench. So that's something that I think quite a few people will probably face this week, with two of the defenders being, probably Durden, probably Ware. I already have Owen, so it's bringing that doesn't help me with him obviously not being there. So that's the sort of dilemma that I'm facing. Is that any way that I look at it, any way that I slice it, the only defenders that I can bring in to free up cash and end with me getting 7 defenders. There's no other way. So unless I go to say the other option is bringing in say a Jai Callow or something like that in a different line. But yeah, I'm pretty much screwed. I had all these plans. They've just gone all up the wazoo. Stupid freaking Max Gorn just shafting me for a week.
That was lovely.
Sean Darcy just
Brilliant.
absolutely killing me as well. I'm not happy this week, guys. I can tell you that.
Chris, it's 6 minutes in and you haven't said fuck Witherden yet. So
I want to, but there's also children running around. So I'm actually kind of, for the first time ever, I'm actually holding my tongue. So
the PG Chris, what I would pay to live in that world.
I know you would. You love it.
Durden is an interesting one because Marchbank, I think, is now going to be named. I heard whispers just before the podcast.
Really?
So that
Yes.
makes it interesting. Durden might not even get a game this week, which would be absolutely painful.
Well, not for
interesting
me
sort of
because
note.
he's not going to be fucking playing anyway. Oh, I should see what I did there.
Oh, I can't say fuck with it if I'll just drop it later anyway. See, PG Chris
I'm
doesn't
sorry,
exist.
honey.
Yes. See, there you go.
But actually, I had prefaced this in the podcast on my. I don't know if you actually watch my team podcast every now and
Yeah,
then.
Broncos. How dare you wear a Broncos shirt?
I did. Yeah, no, I was so sick last week. Thank you, Melbourne, for giving me like the worst sickness. 6 nights in a row, I had fever, and I just sweated out the bed sheets. It was not fun. Anyway, yeah, it was disgusting. So bringing in someone that is going to play at basement price, I think, is probably the next move in that sort of situation. So Charlie Dean is one that I'm looking at as someone that I think he plays the second is available. Jai Callow, again, someone who's definitely going to be playing this season that you can bring in. So if they're not going to impact the numbers that you have on field, then there's every ability to bring in a non-playing player that has some potential, or you could obviously go for the non-playing Ruck in Teakle if you didn't already bring him in. So there's a couple of options there.
That's a good strategy. If you have 18 this week, then Dean and these other players is definitely a good shake because they will free up maximum cash and also likely play this year. If you are like me and have maybe 14, 15 players and you need to use 3 to 4 trades of active players, and that's kind of not really my deal this week. Also,
the other one,
shout.
is Carmichael as well. Sorry, from the Pies, because I think so McRae actually said that he expects him to play the back half of the year. So that was a pretty big rap for a guy that he just said once he gets up to speed with the game plan, the system, etc. So what do we call that, guys? 2-3 weeks? Like,
Yeah, I like how you're arguing my point about that last week. And that you were like, yeah, he's no freaking chance. And I'm like, mate, I'm telling you, big raps on this kid. I'm more
when you're winning, mate. I don't know you don't understand this, mate, but when you're winning, you sort of have a best 22 that it's really hard to break into.
No, but that's why I'm surprised you're saying Charlie Dean, because as much as he's that mature age and whatever, but you're winning. Like, what changes in your backline?
The big difference though is if you look at the guys that we've been playing. Like, for example, this week we played Hawthorn. They only had the one big really they've got the 2 bigs, but they were playing basically one tall short because they're out of ruckman. So they're not at all. They weren't playing tall. They were really only playing with the one tall forward, which was Mitch Lewis. And Cozzy obviously was chopping in and out of the ruck. So they're sort of one tall forward short, and the same with Carlton the week before. So we're winning because they really only have Kernow and not Mackay. Like, if they're playing both of those spearheads, we really struggle for height. So when we start coming up against guys like Geelong or any of the guys with 2 key forwards, or Brisbane if they ever get their shit together, we're really going to struggle. And that's where Charlie Dean's going to need to be playing, because we're going to struggle against those bigger forward teams. So we've just been lucky the last few weeks that we haven't had to do that. So
can I also give a quick little mention? Don't forget that because it's one of those situations where, not one of those things, one of those situations where you kind of get midway through a round and sometimes you forget that you can actually reverse trades. Because I had that last week and I brought in Owens to free up some cash and I was looking at a few things and I was like, looking at it going, geez, these rookies sucked. Like how they started the round with some poor scores. And I'm like, hang on, I traded Roses this week. I'm like, how can I get Roses back in my side? And it didn't cost me any more trades. I think I went Hayes down to the rookie, which I knew was going to hurt me a little bit this week. I didn't get English. I got Sicily, which will be in my team pod, but I realized I could bring Roses back in, and didn't I get kissed on the absolute D because he outscored English, which is absolutely like the biggest fluke you could think of. Like, hey, Roses, oh, you know what? You can get me better than a 33, mate. Let's take those points. And for him to bang out an 83 makes it extremely difficult. So don't forget that you can actually try and work your way in. It doesn't have to be a like for like as who you went out and back in, but you can sort of try and rearrange your team on the fly, which I think is really helpful and beneficial. So don't forget.
You probably, and some people may need to do that this week with the obviously Thursday night games, but Friday night lockout is when we find out Sunday teams. So depending on how you want to, work your team and do your trades, if you do them before the weekend, you might find that Ware's not named, for example, on Sunday, and then have to reverse them out. So be aware of how to do that this week for
But the
sure.
good news is Richmond and Port Adelaide are literally irrelevant for standard at the
Yeah, pretty
moment.
much.
What do you have? Short and Butters,
Yeah,
like or
maybe
Houston,
Houston. Yeah,
Boke if if you're really upset.
Hayes, Teagle, but that's not pretty well
Yeah.
irrelevant. You're
Or
right.
Hayes
Yeah.
maybe, but as
Yeah,
far as trying to bring in players, I don't think they
players.
really
Yeah.
have anybody, or even a premium that you kind of like, hey, I really need a Dusty Martin and he's 92 average right now. So I think it's definitely an interesting situation.
If
Now
I
let's
wanted
go
a
have a look.
92 average, I'd just bring in Ryan.
Or Cornelio. I've already got Cornelio averaging me
Oh
92.
my
So
gosh.
that will
Wow.
do me. Now let's have a look at the people that had the buy last week. Premiums. We'll go through defense, midfield, probably ignore forwards because there's what is there? Butters, Cornelio, Toby Green. Like there's nobody that's a forward with the first buy round that's actually any decent. Defensive line. I'll get your boys' thoughts as to the maybe three people in defense and three midfielders you're looking to bring in. Now that could be based on their average, and you might have to pay up price, and also try and include a discounted player on someone who you think is definitely worth a shake, and it's going to be a nice cheap point of view where you think they might actually average well enough coming home.
Um,
You
well,
going first?
I suppose I will, but when we do that, you have to bed, hun. Good night. Sorry. Um, Yeah, so I will go through, but I'll say, I'll preface this by saying a lot of the value options that I'm looking at are guys that are coming off later buys, not necessarily these buys, because right now with these buys, I think most people are pretty cashed up. Like you're looking for best available. You're not necessarily looking to take a discount option unless it's one just absolutely screaming from the rooftops. So from defense, I think we've all pretty much already got them. But if you don't have Hewitt, if you don't have Doherty, and if you don't have Sinclair, those are the ones you'd be looking at. But Sinclair for me is the one that like I've got an option to get this week if I want to sideways someone with an with an but I'm also then like, well, do I want Witherden or do I want Stewart? Like, is it going to really hurt me this week to wait 1 week and just get Stewart instead? Um, and that's the things you got to weigh up based on what cash you've got this week, what trades you got coming in, what rookies are available to actually get. So there's quite a few different like scenarios there that need to play out, but I think that those are the three in the back line that if you don't have, you desperately need. Like, but yes, the one that's sort of a question mark is probably Stewart. It's probably Sinclair. I think that the first two in Doherty and Hewitt are
Hewitt.
kind of a priority. Yeah. So if you don't have those guys, I think you'd absolutely need them.
Sinclair's interesting for me. 562,000. So you're paying kind of what you expect. He's averaging 113. Really inflated that average. He went 138 against Adelaide, 140 against North. Obviously, no steal. Absolutely tailing up. Now, the issue I have is they play Brisbane twice coming home. Brisbane, Essendon, Sydney, Carlton, Fremantle, Dogs. Not the easiest run. A little bit easier West Coast. But then even to finish in round 21 to 23, Geelong, Brisbane, Sydney. Like, I'm not entirely sold on Saints fixture coming home. And he has definitely towed up some weak opposition this year. So 135 against Hawthorn, which, I think they were kind of doing okay. But on the plus side, he's only had 2 scores under 100, and there was an 83 and an 85. So his ceiling is actually, his floor's good, and his ceiling is good. He's probably the bane of my existence, where I probably should have brought in a Sinclair, but I haven't, and he's absolutely killing it for those that have him.
Kind of got
Swizz, what do you
kissed though,
reckon?
didn't he? Like, don't you reckon got
Oh,
kissed a little bit? Because I mean, he had the first 5 weeks or so where Zach Jones wasn't in there. They didn't have a full midfield. They had heaps of injuries, so he was filling in that midfield spot. Then they all came back. He got pushed behind the ball. I think he had one good game where he went well in defense, and then the other twos were in the 80s. And then bang, Jack Steele goes out for 6 to 8 weeks. Then he jumps back into the midfield and starts going bang against shitty teams. Like, he's kind of, I
the
don't know
perfect
how to,
storm.
like, yeah, it is a perfect storm. And so that's why I'm sort of like, is it a perfect storm you jump on and ride it? Or is it going to be, say, like a Darcy Cameron, for example, where it's going to be good for the next month? Jump on, ride it while you can, and then just trade out of it when you can as well. Like, is that the situation? I'm actually really confused about that. And I don't know. And I suppose that's why I'm just like, well, for 570K, if I'm not certain that I'm going to be keeping him, like, do I really want him? Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, it's almost like trap written all over it. If they get a full complement of their side, he could easily go back to averaging you sort of 80 to 100.
yeah,
I
and
don't
then
mind him.
I don't know.
I'm not going to diss anyone that's going there, because knowing my luck, he'll absolutely tail it and go 115 coming home.
Oh,
But
this is my
um,
luck is this. I'll trade him in. He'll start tanking for the rest of the year, and then in
Mhm.
4 weeks' time, I wonder why I didn't get Stewart again. That's literally what's happened,
Don't
mate.
get me started on Stuart right now, mate.
yes,
So,
Swizzy broke him. How dare you,
2 minutes
Swizz?
well,
before the game. 2 minutes. So our A League chat put it up there, English versus Stewart. Everyone convinced me to go Stuart Owens and that. I was like, yeah, you know what? But I was all weekend. No. I'm not going to trade. I'm not going to trade. I'm going to back in Hinge playing the Eagles. Why wouldn't I back him in? And that bring in Stewart 2 minutes to go, and then I watch Hinge get 83, and friggin' Stewart gets concussed.
39
yeah,
C.
Absolutely dead to
Um,
me. Anyway,
Interesting.
I'll answer your question, Benny Boy. So,
Yes.
as I've said in previous pods, my old strategy is this: it depends on what you play for, head to head versus overall, and where you're ranked. So, if you're back with me like 4,000, you might be trying to make some more moves. If you're up near the top, you're trying to keep more steady with everyone else. So that comes into account. I try to ignore season averages. I kind of look at your last 3 to 5 weeks and then your fixture coming home, because realistically, we're not looking for the person top 8 or top 6, overall for the season. We're looking them for just these 10 weeks. So if there's somebody with a good draw, and we've seen in the past, some people might only end up finishing 15th overall, but this last run home, they might get on a run, especially in the defense or the forward line, and they can be worthwhile. So a couple names I'll throw out there. As much as he's a bit of a whipping boy, but Dan Houston has to be considered. I know he's not been the most friendly option for us three in the past, but has averaged 115 for the last three. Has a great role there at Port Adelaide, and it's one for if you are playing even head to head. They've got the Bombers, I think, in the Supercoach Grand Final. So if you're going to be in that sort of contention, but there is some tougher games for there. But that might not even worry Houston so much with that role he plays on the outside.
That was
Perryman's been actually going really well since Whitfield's been moved forward, and then the way McVeigh's been playing him. So I think with some of their draw that they have, starting off with North Melbourne this week, if you kind of wanted a pod, the natural ones, your Doherty's, your Shorts, especially if you don't have Jaden Short, but there's a bit of a worry with that role in the midfield. He's not getting that kind of loose ball. So, yeah, if for whatever reason you don't have Doherty or Hewitt, get them. But, yeah, Perryman and Houston might be a couple outside pods there that no one will have. And if you're chasing and you're sort of ranked outside that 5,000, they might be too worth getting on.
Yeah, Houston's interesting. He has a high ceiling, but also bottoms out a lot. He's had, 6 scores out of 11, pretty much in that sort of 80 to 90 range. So you're going to get at least an 80 from him.
nah.
But he has had 139, 144 in his side. So he could win you a league matchup any week. Sinclair's been more consistent with only 2 scores below that sort of 100 mark. So
My
if he
problem
could
with
continue to back it up, it's interesting.
My problem with Houston is that he's basically their Mr. Fix It, And like I started him last year. Same thing happened. When he has the role, he can score. Absolutely, he can score. But too often, he's just the guy that they go to win a game. He's the guy that goes to. Oh, they need a shutdown player. He's going to go tag. He's going to go behind the ball. He's then going to go to a wing. Like he's kind of like Dawson. And this is why I don't like Dawson either. Is that Dawson's role gets changed every second week? He's changed around and flipped
My,
around. And yes, they're guys that can score in multiple roles,
I yeah, I get where you're
but
going with that, and I agree more now that they've got Lockie Jones and Bryn Jones and all those halfbacks. It makes it a little easier for them, but I think they already know Amon's leaving, so they're more likely to keep Houston on that wing role and back him in because they know Amon's out the door come the end of the season.
Here's my issue. It depends on if the opposition are giving him any attention. When he played Brisbane, literally, he was killing them forward of centre and actually hitting the scoreboard and having a huge impact. If someone's letting him do whatever they want, they will look for Houston, and he is really damaging more than I ever thought in my life. But forward of centre, he is someone you can't just let have a free run. You just
Mm,
can't let him
his
have it.
yeah.
So if the
disposal's elite.
opposition,
Mm,
if the
yeah.
opposition give him time and space and they don't care, he will bang out the 120s, 130s. If someone actually plays on him, I don't think he's that great to be able to, absolutely dominate someone that's actually on him all the time. So
From a
I think that's
football
where the fluctuation is.
perspective, if I just if I was like managing or recruiting for an AFL team, if I was up the top end, I'd want Houston so much in my team. If you're a
Oh
more
yeah,
lower
because
team, you'd
he
want
fixes so
a
many
Dorset
problems for
because
you,
he
right?
does. And as you said, his position inside 50 is absolutely elite.
All
Yeah.
right. So for me, I think Sicily is one that I think if you don't have him, I wouldn't even mind trying to get. Like I know he had that poor round, so you'd probably wait till after the buy if you could. But I'd still pay up the money. And the reason again, number one, it was a bit of a wet game. It was a bit on and off, right? But
Oh
their run
man,
home is
dude,
so good.
he
Their
did
run
he
home
did
is
absolutely
stupidly good.
nothing, and
I know
he still shut in a 98, didn't he?
it's
He was
perfect though.
he was arguably one of their worst players in their day. He's disposed like he basically.
Yeah, banged it.
I'm guessing he gets away with this most weeks, but he's just like, oh well, I'll just roost the ball up downfield, and because it's obviously a wet game, he was just like, oh well, long kicks, and they were not necessarily. A lot of them were clanger kicks, obviously as well, but because they go long, they don't hurt you as much as a short clanger click or uncontested disposal. Um, and he's just sagging off. I think a lot of the time he was played on Mason Cox, or like it obviously he's going to get completely dominated. But in the past, when he's played on those quite tall marking tools, he's quite serviceable. But he got killed on the weekend. Like he
Yeah,
was not anywhere. So
no.
yeah,
He
I
was
thought his
out the
game
back of
was
contests a bit, but
yeah.
they kind of didn't get to him. But have you seen their draw though? They after Fremantle and the Dogs, who will probably be quite competitive. Dogs don't have the great forward line, so he could probably do well there anyway. GWS, Adelaide, West Coast, North Melbourne, Saints, Gold Coast. Like Sicily will probably absolutely have an absolute field day against some of those more inexperienced forward lines. I just think if there's someone that you don't have, I know it sucks, but Sicily at that price, and I've been avoiding him like the plague. That's why I also think Tom Mitchell's a pretty good shake for 480,000. I know it sucks because Tom Mitchell gets 30 touches and doesn't even get a super coach ton, which is painful. But again, when you look at, GWS let Lockie Neal go absolutely ham, Adelaide, West Coast, North Melbourne, Saints, and Gold Coast, Titch could average 115 through that sort of period.
Nah, he
And
can't. Not in his
I think
role.
he could. I think
Not
he
with his
could.
role.
I know that, but I'm saying is in at that price for defense. For me, the one shake that I don't actually mind now, it's definitely left field. If you have say someone like Dacos and you can wait a little bit, then Salem's going to drop some absolute cash, boys. Now I know he didn't do that well. He got 83. D's got flogged on the back end of the after half time, right? But I think he was on about 63 around halftime or before that. He absolutely dominated the start of the game. Maybe they managed his minutes, maybe they didn't, but he did get injured on a 5 in round 1, right? So basically coming after that bye, I don't mind if you have like a little bit of a swing play or you're looking for like a little bit of a loophole and being able to throw Hewitt into that midfield or something, but he will be so cheap. I think he's predicted to drop 66,000 with a break even of 216 at the moment. So he could be 400 flat. I don't mind it as a if you're really struggling, you have no cash, and you have one position that's really late. Salem's a guy that can
I
average
actually
100 flat.
like you say that, but I mean, really, I prefer from the same team. I prefer Stephen May who's also going to be dropping a ton of cash over the next
Heard
couple of
he's been
weeks.
dropping other people too. Or
Yeah,
dropping
and he dropped a lot of cash at the pub for sure.
So he's obviously
Him and Frederick having a good night out.
For anyone that doesn't know, Stephen May has been suspended for a week by the club because he's in concussion protocols and went out and got drunk and hit his teammate apparently. So
So the altercation apparently was over. For how this even comes up, this is the rumor saying about May getting into Melsham for not being part of the premiership side. And that and it's just like, what the?
So when banter turned serious, boys,
That's right.
I disagree. I sent them an email,
Oh,
and
Here we go.
they were very they were very nice, and they were very responding and trying to be the right thing. The PR was going crazy, and apparently, boys, it happened just after midnight, and apparently Stephen May was fucking with his Wordle. And that's it. He wasted some of his Wordles, and he didn't like it. So that's it. Story finished.
Any sense. All right. Well, now I
Not a
know
Wordle
that
person, right?
I do know that Melbourne obviously had a pretty easy run coming into the bye, but he obviously came.
They lost 2 games.
No, in terms of like the matchup, so they've already played. Gold Coast. They've already played West Coast and North, Hawthorn, etc. GWS. They've already played a lot of the Essendon, a lot of the shitter teams, right? So, and he scored quite well against them. He was averaging 97.4 before the 15. So, as a guy that's he's going to get I think he's priced right now at 435K with a break even of
153.
153. So he's going to drop to 400K. So if you're desperate for cash and you need a D6 and you can wait 2 weeks, then that's the guy, 100%. And it seems, wasn't he everyone's Lord and Savior last year as well?
Yeah, 2 years ago, mate. That's when was it 2 years or 3? Like I made my big run. Might have even been last year when I got him and he just went on an absolute heater. And then and like people just cursing me because I'm like, yeah, now Stephen May, mate, just get on.
So I think that he's the barometer really of that side. Like they look lost without him. Absolutely shot. So I wouldn't be surprised if Collingwood roll them. I mean, they're coming in hot. 3 on the trot. Grundy who? Like
yeah, I remember saying that earlier.
Don't even get me started on Cameron.
How have you not traded Grundy already? Like, where's the mid-season trade period? It's pack your bags, mate.
You know what I love about Darcy Cameron is that Ben's wanted him for so long. And then 2 weeks ago, he's like, oh, should I go? And I'm like, nah, don't do it because Cox is going to be playing primary ruck. In that game, he goes 93. And the next game, he goes 129.
It's so good.
Actually, I think I was going to trade out Butters for him last week to get the extra number for this week or something or other. Anyway, I'm not quite sure what I was going to do there. But hey, let's move on to the midfield and something relevant more than Cameron, who's an absolute fucking muppet. Bane of my existence.
Marshall
and I'm about to bite here too, boys, because it's a painful topic. Now, for midfield for me, I'm going 3-2-1 as far as people that I really want. And this is in order for me, boys. Parrish, number 1 for me. Over Walsh is my second. And then Merritt, if you need a discounted option. And I'm going to explain why. Merritt and Parrish intertwined. People are sort of saying the difference between it. If trades are an issue, if I don't have sort of 13, 14 trades or whatever, or maybe if you only need one more spot to finish your team, then use the extra trade. If you have looks like you're having 17 this week, then obviously you need the extra trade. So you'd have to go say Merritt. But Parrish, boys, absolutely killing it at the moment. And when you have a look at their draw, right? So Carlton and Saints this week and next, obviously good opponents. West Coast, Sydney, Lions, but coming into that home run here, boys, Gold Coast, Collingwood, North Melbourne, GWS, Port Adelaide. Like, I just see that midfield Parrish. He doesn't have as many people sharing the points as Walsh does. Walsh is sharing the points with so many people, with Cripps and Hewitt and Doherty, all these other good players that they have, right? And then Carlton actually have a little bit of a harder run sort of to come home. So I am a little bit concerned with Carlton and the sharing of points. I still think Merritt can average 115 sort of coming home. But for me, Parrish, I think he's the real deal this year. Last year, I think people got upset and disappointed. He's not highly owned. He's only sitting in, I think it's around 10% of teams. So for me, I'm spending up 625. I'm going Parrish over Walsh, and he's going to absolutely light this world on fire, boys.
Well, I don't think you can really go wrong with either, to be completely honest.
That's fair.
I don't think
True.
it really matters. But and I mean, I am, and so having said that, for the reasons that you have already said, I've also gone with Parish after continually not.
Talking about Walsh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right. I love Walsh,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
think everyone could see. If you, I mean, look at his scoring profile, for example. I think he's only had one score below 100 for the year, and that was in round one. Was it? Oh no, he had another one. Round two, sorry, I should say. Um, he still looks like he like being at the game again last week. Like he's everywhere. Like every time someone put like, I'm like, oh, who did that? Oh, Walsh. He's absolutely everywhere. He's just huge work rate. So I don't mind it. But you are right in that he is sharing points with a lot of guys in that midfield. Kennedy is, I assume, due to come back again. So yeah, they're going to have to continue to share. The draw for them is not as good as it is for Essendon. Essendon have a much easier draw. Parrish is the number one midfielder at Essendon, so he's going to get the lion's share of the points. And Merritt is number two. So I don't mind Merritt, but if you're tossing up between the two, why would you want the second best midfielder in the team? That doesn't make any sense to me. You got to go for the number one. It's true, right?
Swizz, where do you stand?
Yeah.
Do you think Josh Kelly's a good shake? North
Yeah,
Melbourne
well,
this
mate,
week.
we'll get into that one in a second. But my argument is it's 2 trades versus 3 trades for me. So it's 2 trades Zach Merritt or 3 trades Parish Walsh or wait a week Mills. And they're the 3 discussions. Like Mills has a really soft period there where I think it's Adelaide, Giants, North Melbourne. I think they've got some other shit team or Essendon in there as well. So we know what he's been doing. But yeah, it's how much do I want that extra trade versus how much would I prefer the better premium, and
And I
that's where
think
it comes down to.
there's a validity there as well. And this is sort of does plug straight into my team is that like I can get Parish this week, but I actually need 2 mids. So my option was I was going to go both the double with Parish and Merritt, but because I can only trade in a defender, I can't actually get those 2 mids into my team. It's ridiculous that I can't do that. But for whatever reason, I can't. So therefore, my next best option is Callum Mills. So if I have to wait a week for a mid, I'm not going for the same price. I'm not if I like you've got the same price as Mills or Laird versus a Parish and a Walsh. I'm probably taking Mills and Laird ahead of Parish and Walsh. But the extra week that they be able to play for you does bring that into consideration, particularly if you can do that this week. So Merritt, I can understand if you want to, if you need to get him on this week, and you're not, especially if you don't have 18 players, like over and above, that's most important.
That's what I want to talk about. So particularly if you need that extra trade to fill 18, that 18 points, because you know whatever they score this week is going straight into your bank. More importantly, it actually then comes into factoring as far as averages for the rest of the year as to whether it's worth it, particularly for overall. So if you say, right, I was going to play 17 and go Parish, it's like, well, hang on, no, you're better off going Merritt, getting another premium in to fill that 18th spot, because if they score 100, then that's like the other person scoring 10 points more per game for the rest of the year, right? That 100 points over 10 games is 10 points. So it's like, well, will Merritt get within 10 points of somebody else for the next 10 rounds? Well, yes, I think he would. Who's going to average you 125 for the rest of the year if he goes 115? So that's where it kind of does play into the factor is in why wait a week if you can get a premium now? And if you're going to play with a donut, then it's even more imperative that you try and get, if you can't get a rookie in to free up cash for next week, because that subsidizes obviously that average, but a donut, you go for a premium, and whatever that premium is going to get you, there's no point in saying, oh, hey, I can afford Merritt, but I'm going to cop a donut and I'm going to get Callum Mills next week. It's like, okay, well, is Callum, if Merritt goes 115, is Mills going 125? Maybe. But then it still just evens out. Like it's literally those points matter for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
And I think that can't be underestimated.
Further on that, Ben, that's where, say, Clark, who might have another 50 to 70K to make, if I move him on for that extra cash to get Parish, not only am I going Parish over Merritt, which might be an extra 10 points a game as it is, but this week that then takes, say, Connor McDonald as my 18th guy, possibly off the field for the rookie that's coming in for him. And that could be an extra 20, 30, 50 points this week. as well as that. So
the only negative to that is, of course, that I would argue that Clark is probably most people's M9 right now and for the foreseeable future. So
The points don't matter.
no, well, what I mean by that is if you get injury for a 1 week injury or something like that, or a suspension, and he comes into your midfield, yeah, what are you? Who's your other M9 or who's your other bench cover that you're going to be able to do for that week? How many points is that going to cost you? So you do have to. I mean, there is a little bit with that. In that, I think Clark's arguably the best midfield rookie to hold us for the rest of the year. He's got the best job security and arguably the best scoring profile, even though his scoring's been pretty damn bang average.
Well, he improved his CBA and got on the wing, but the issue was it was just bypassing him. The team was getting centre bounce clearance and going, "See you later, wing."
West Coast are an absolute rabble right now, honestly.
Oh, for sure.
At least at the start of the year, they were kicking around the ball in defence and getting with it in some points. Now they're just like, nah, screw it.
Sorry, Swizz. Touching on what Chris was saying quickly, the consideration is that this year we've had, again, really good scoring rookies as far as making cash, mid prices going big, and even like Brody staying a keeper and Cornelio around the mark. This is 1 year more than any that if you have the trades, you should be able to push Cornelio Butters loophole. That's what I'm planning on doing and trying to have them. So that way, if I do have a short-term injury, a 1 weeker or a 2 weeker, I can then swing them into the midfield, cover that gap. And if it's a longer term injury, then I'm using those trades that I have left to get rid of them. It is definitely the type of year where you should be able to kind of push one of your players to an F7, M9 compared to any other year that I can remember playing for years.
I was doing that, and then Bailey Smith went and headbutted someone. So you guys can go fuck yourself.
That was soft too. That's 2 weeks. I think it was one of those situations where it looked bad for the game and they didn't want to contest it, and he kind of just took his punishment. But I don't think that's worth 2 weeks. And he was in there, in his face, kind of leaning towards him the first time to kind of actually instigate a little bit and antagonize him. And yes, Bailey Smith got carried away, but I think also he was kind of leaning towards him as he did the whole bloody little bit of extra mayo, and the fact that he had a little mark on his head definitely went against him. But that's a 1 week for me. So
it's just frustrating from a Supercoach perspective because
for sure.
I mean, the one thing is
you have to trade him, right? You have to.
There's no way around it. Like you can't. Is not only is he. I mean, the benefit is that you get to trade him to someone who's going to score your points this week. It's the one benefit. And he's actually at a decent price, but he's going to drop now in cash. So you're better off. Like I'm definitely better off trading him, and then he's now I'm sure I'll probably get him back from Darcy Cameron when Grundy comes back. Like it's just so. I've never been more frustrated in like the last 2 weeks of Supercoach. I've just I'm so frustrated right now.
How'd that Max Gawn go? I didn't quite see the game. Anyone see the game?
Mate,
Swizz, did you see the game?
I actually saw till half time. Watched the second half because I work at 2:30 a.m. Sunday morning, so I watched it to half time and then watched it when I got home on Sunday.
Well, what was the logistics on not getting Gawn, Chris? It's he doesn't go big and he hasn't gone big the last 2 years, and he's had a shit period of about 3 weeks, but before that and after that, the bookends are the biggest scores he's had in 2 years.
This is John Longmire's fault, and there's no one else except Horseface, because this is what their game plan was: kick it long to Gawn. That's what it was. And you know what? The reason why they did that was because there was no Stephen May. If Stephen May's in that team, there's no way that's their game plan. Continually pummel the ball forward, and Max Gawn just won. He's the only guy back there taking anything. Like that was all they did. Just kept kicking it straight to Max Gawn. I couldn't believe that it actually worked. Like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, actually, in a way, got a little lucky because Gawn missed a goal late in that quarter, in the last quarter as well. So he could have he could have kicked 4 for the night and probably gone like 230, 240.
After I knew my night was shit after he received a fucking handball in the forward line and fucking snaps it on his right foot and it's bending through like he's Peter Dacos or something. I was like, what is this guy? Like, come on. It's obviously not my week. But the
flashback against Geelong, no?
How's the stat Heath Shaw was talking about this week that he's never done a bounce?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Guaranteed he's out on his own this week on the wing and he bounces the ball.
He's probably at training. Everyone's practicing, marking and kicking, and he's there going, right. So I know I'm tall, so if I bend my knees, and I'll just
Yeah.
there you go.
Like
It's a bounce.
so.
It's just a bounce,
It's like a tip of the cap. Like so.
like so.
You
Let's
can't not
just-
mention midfielders without mentioning your man, Josh Kelly, mate.
I know he's been on a heater, and mainly
And
North
North
Melbourne this week.
They, like 200. He's double ton before. It's not out of the question. Like North, do they put time into him or they just can't? Like, can that as bad as the Giants are going in front of 1,500 people at Marvel this Sunday? It's going to be an absolute flogging. So he's his last 3 weeks he's gone 156, 125, 131. And
Well,
two of
even
those
an
teams were
80,
against Carlton and
85,
Brisbane.
an 85 in round 8 against Geelong,
Yeah,
but
but-
even then a 153 against Adelaide. So when you look at Adelaide and West Coast, and he's
Yeah, but that's
tailing
the
up
difference,
The
full
mate.
problem,
Mate,
guys, is
that
that he's
was
the same
that-
price as everybody else, right?
Yeah,
Like,
but that
how do you
was
justify that?
yeah, but that was Leon Cameron days, the 85. Think of this is McVeigh time now, and that he's in the guts, back where
I don't know
he's
if you
meant
can
to
trust anyone that's paid for Essendon, bro.
be.
I'm gonna say oy vey.
Look, at the end of the day, I love Josh Kelly, so I really hope that pick works out, and I applaud anyone that does because I love Josh Kelly. But like you've got him, you've got Walsh, and you've got Parrish, and
Yep.
there's absolutely no merit outside of a flying shot in the dark that is a better pick based on injury history, based on body, based on GWS, like that's the
I'm not.
still unknowns
Yeah.
for the rest of the season,
I'm not
it'll
paying
just come then.
619 for a guy averaging 113. No thanks. Josh Kelly can get in the bin.
Like,
He'll do well this week.
Are they any chance of making finals? Because like,
No.
what are
Zero.
the chances that they just put him on ice like at
No,
round 16?
Yeah, well,
You know,
there's always
like
that
I
chance and that.
don't know.
All my
And they have
head-to-head
a tough-
opponents
have
the
a tough
last 3
draw.
weeks, all my head-to-head opponents have had freaking jelly.
Wait till
It's
finals.
frustrating.
You'll roll them. Their
Yeah.
draw is actually harder than a lot of the others because they're not the best side. I mean,
No, they're not.
round 18, Brisbane, Carlton, Sydney, Essendon, Dogs, Fremantle. Like they're not going to do well.
No, but that's the
just
other
facts.
thing. They're going to get beaten, but Kelly can just run around and do whatever he wants. Because who cares?
Yeah.
Nah,
You're
it's
gonna-
play
you're
the
gonna beat
kids
them.
time. Play
Yeah,
the
well,
kids.
Green
Yeah,
will start
play the
racking up.
kids, and he'll still just rack up 40 touches.
Nah, old man Kelly. I think you're getting a bit carried away, mate. Old man Kelly. Interesting there. I am kind
And-
of holding out a slim hope that Travis Boak will get forward status in round 18.
Mate, no, don't. You're going the wrong Port Adelaide player there. You've got to discuss Ollie Wines.
Wines?
Yeah.
No.
Yes, this
Ollie
is when
Wines, no.
mate, he's run home.
I'd rather
last
talk
year,
about the Brownlow winner,
did the
Clayton
same
Oliver.
thing
Is that
last year,
right?
mate. Like he's run home for that Brownlow run, and he's already started it. Like, what's his last like that? It's only just getting over that 100, but we know that he's going to play guts. If the Port are any chance, I think a lot of it depends on this week how they go about else. Because if they beat us, there's still a chance of making finals.
They don't have a good draw though. Sydney, Fremantle, Melbourne. So it's pretty much like a gap week. It goes Sydney, Gold Coast, Fremantle, GWS, and then it's Melbourne, Geelong, Collingwood, Richmond. I don't see them making it, to be honest. And
I don't think they
like them.
make it, but yeah, I think
just
he can't be
looking-
discounted. I
Not
like
with
the
the
other
form
options,
Collingwood's
but-
in, guys. No chance
Oh.
of making finals.
Well,
Well, hey, if we're going for outlandish
guys beat Melbourne this
scenarios
week,
here, boys, hey,
friggin'
guess what? If you wait until next week, boys, you can buy Isaac Heaney for the same price people got him at the start of the season. And he's still
Look,
averaging 100.
We'll touch on a couple more mids, guys, but obviously not with the bye this week. But obviously, if you are for whatever reason are forced to wait a week, then the ones that you need to be looking at is Mills and Laird. I think that's a no-brainer. I think that they are clear and above the next best mids outside of the top 4 or 5 guys.
I can tell you a hot fact, Chris. I'm bringing in Mills for Petrarca next week.
Yeah.
So here's the other one. So
I'm getting rid of him. He's gone.
Petrarca and Brayshaw, I think we've both that fascination with them. What can we say? Brayshaw, a bit of a downhill skier at the moment based on his current output, and Petrarca probably the same. You know, it starts coming up. I'm not sure. He's obviously been sick and he's out of form, but he's also still someone that I think he's going to be 500K after this week. Like,
Yeah, he
so
will be.
look, I mean, you could do a lot worse than having Petrarca at M8 or maybe if you've got the cash to put him to M9, like he's definitely the guy that you want when he goes 130 plus. So maybe he's a guy he's a perfect M9. So and he's cheap enough to do that. So I definitely think that there's validity in that. But again, you're paying if you're waiting a week, you're paying up. You surely have to pay up to get the big dogs. So Laird, Mills, if you don't have them, an
Have you
absolute
seen
must. And then
Mills?
the rest
Have
of
you
them,
seen the back end of the year for Sydney? It's so
yeah.
good.
Well,
Like
that's why
round 19,
I'm like, oh
Adelaide.
well, I can't bring in someone this week. I suppose I'll have to get Mills next week. Like,
Dude, it's so
I'm
good.
really
He's
not
going to
upset about it.
towel up Adelaide, GWS, North Collingwood Saints. He's going to towel those midfields for the last 6 or 5 weeks. It's ridiculous. Coming into finals, Mills is going to have at least, because already he is very serviceable. He has a really good base apart from that, 1 or 2 shit rounds he really threw out. But his ceiling is so good that the next time he goes 150 or something, you're going to hate life if he goes 180,
Every
190.
time I
It's so
turn a
bad.
Swans game on at quarter time, Mills is already on 50. I'm like, what the like?
Yep.
He is a hot starter, and
He's a pit
I'm
bull.
so sick of watching that every single week and being like, how do I not have Callum Mills?
You
How
know
do I
what?
not have
And you know
Callum
what
Mills?
happens in that game? Mills runs around for 3 quarters and dominates, and then he tags his mate Heaney and goes, "Oh, it's the last quarter. It's your time to get some points."
Yeah, it's
Every
time.
friggin' week.
But then that's what's great about Mills is that he just drops behind the footy then and then just takes some cheap uncontested
Yeah.
intercept disposals, like even when he went back behind the ball the other week, he had that many points from spoils because he was the loose defender and intercept possessions. It was ridiculous. It's like, okay, well, doesn't matter where he goes, he's going to be able to score, and we've seen that in his past. He can still score behind the football quite well too. So yeah, look, I love
So
Callum Mills.
He's
these
one of those
players
guys.
are.
I'm already saying he's nearly the lock already for next year.
Oh,
One
I
more year
like him.
left in develop. What's he going to be
He-
next year? Like 25, 26 years old? And that,
Yeah,
like,
Here's the
he's
crazy part is that when you look at ownership, a lot of the top averaging mids aren't even highly owned. Laird only 9%, Callum Mills 14%, Parrish 10%, Sam Walsh is only in 7%, is it? Like it's 7%. So when you look at like these guys, they're top
it's because everyone went early and
6
got
to
all their
9.
Brayshaws and
Yeah,
Pachakas.
Green
So
and everyone that was going well at the time. There's so much room for and so much scope to actually get these players in. The only ones I don't have in that top sort of 10, Walsh and Mills. So it's go nuts, boys. Fill your boots. Fill your boots, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah, and look, obviously for Rucks, let's not talk about it because we don't
Yeah.
need to talk about anything in the Rucks, and especially not Sean Darcy because go fuck himself. But
well.
So
Somebody
Wits
might,
versus Darcy. Wits versus Darcy.
somebody might
Who would
have
you
a
take?
ruck issue in that. I don't know if anyone would, but
well, Darcy should go big this week if he was racking alone. And what? Okay, so one thing I
Tabiner.
didn't,
It's Tabiner's fault.
I know,
Tabiner's fault.
but I thought that Lloyd would come in and play Tabitha's role, not come in and play 50-50 ruck split with Darcy. And that's what's thrown me is that like Lloyd Meek basically came in and he's a good ruck. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you
He's a
have
better ruck than forward, and Darcy likes to drift forward and exploit. Darcy's a better forward than Meek is, and that was my comments earlier, like before they even played, was saying
they don't even kick it to Darcy when he's playing forward.
no.
Well,
Well,
time
yeah,
on I'd love to see what his time on ground.
they were
Honestly,
both in the 60s. They literally sucked the life out of each other. My concern with Darcy
stupid.
was that he's a better forward than Meek is, and I thought that would impact him for the week. Tabiner, when he's back in, then Darcy's going large. So
Well, my whole thing for the week was that like Hickey was Hickey a laid out last week?
no, he was injured. I
he
think
was
toe
injured.
or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah, so he
So
didn't
he
play
came
last
out.
week or this week.
So
Yep.
for whatever reason, I thought Hickey was playing, which I was like, oh well, so Darcy's Gorn's not going to play scored that well because Hickey's actually pretty good. And then I was like, oh look, I'll probably take the one hit with Darcy, but then Darcy comes up against this week. They've got Hawks, and they don't have a ruck, and then or they're going to play that VFL ruck potentially.
Oh, Reeves played, didn't he?
Oh yeah,
Reeves
Reeves
played.
played last week.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah, Reeves him alone.
Got dominated by Mason Cox and
He did.
Dusty Cameron.
He did.
Cameron was so underrated. I hate it.
Boys, I'll throw it up because if you are wanting a ruck coming off his bye, what are your thoughts about Nank the Tank?
Oh, fuck off.
No,
No,
but mate, I'm serious
it's
here.
decent.
His last 3, he's averaging 125. His last 5's 116. And he
It's
has some soft ruck matchups. Like Port Adelaide, who's he rucking against this week?
Sam Hayes.
Sam Hayes. Like he's going to destroy Carlton's ruck.
Yeah, Darcy has Sam Hayes after the bye, and then Carlton, so Tom Taconi.
Yeah. And
So
then
as well.
Nank's got West Coast ruck,
Yeah.
North Melbourne. Like it's probably Cherry. And that, like his next few games, and he's already gone his last 4, 121, 108,
What's he priced
135,
at? What's he
134,
priced at?
550.
Price. Ooh, that's a little bit. Yeah, okay, it's not a bad shake. I
Yeah.
mean,
I'm thinking if
It's better
you're
than
talking,
fucking
we're
Darcy.
talking about rucks who have already had buys, and you're talking about that extra 10 points a
10
week
points per game. Yep.
per game for a team that's going to be around the mark contending, and it's their captain. So, yeah, like
Yeah, if you're short and you don't have Hayes or something, then that makes sense.
He could go 110 for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's not a bad shake. Sorry, Swizz, for swearing
No,
at you, mate. You
I'm
bring
gonna
good logic.
I'll back our captain in.
Oh, is he your captain? Fuck, you are in a bunch of shambles. Cochin is always the captain in my heart,
Yeah,
mate.
no,
So there you go.
it's Nank these days.
Jesus.
Either way, terrible.
Where was he? Where was he before? Where was he before? Sydney? No, where did he come from?
Sydney.
Yeah,
He picked him up for
Sydney.
nothing.
Man, Sydney likes giving all
Darcy
their
Cameron's
rucks to
from
other
Sydney as
clubs,
well,
eh?
mate.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They give all their
What a
rucks to other
trade
clubs.
that was.
And then they get Hickey, fourth club player, who is a good player.
Thanks for
They
that.
traded
Swanee.
Darcy Cameron, and now they're playing Laddams.
Yeah, I know who they got.
Nank, a 3-time premiership ruck now. Thanks, Swannies.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Okay, so final shake-ups here, boys. What are we thinking? Forward line, you have to wait, right? If
Well,
literally,
I actually
there's
want
no
to
one
talk
there.
about this because I think the big talking point now is everyone was
Frank
like, "Oh,
Cornelia
with
went.
these dogs in round 14, right? That's what we all wanted." But now Bailey Smith's suspended, so you can't bring him in, and Bont's got a shoulder issue. So most people have English, so are we getting any of these dogs, or are we saying, look, just not worth it now, or like what's the go? Like,
I don't have
are we
English or
going
Bont,
liver?
Well, Bontempelli, I think, had some more CBAs this week. It's an AC joint, so he's been playing a little bit hurt. Even limping, I think Bontempelli is still a good shake for 100. Can we also shout out each other here, boys? All three of us talking about English and how he's been dominating, but we did say be careful of Stanley because Stanley is a very good defensive ruckman, and we said that. And I know,
I still punched
English.
the VC on him though because I couldn't
Oh,
choose. Well, it wouldn't have mattered anyway
yeah,
because
Laird
I
makes
had
sense.
Laird as my VC or C. So I was like, oh look, I'll take a punt on a Friday night dog, and I was like 2 minutes before bounce, and I just went, well, I'll just throw it on English as a sort of a safety thing just in case he goes huge. And then not one of the dogs was even a valid VC selection.
No.
But
Well, it makes sense because I had to take Laird because it was a good enough score against West Coast. So I guess you
yeah,
had a free roll, whereas
either
I was
way,
forced
yeah.
to take it.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I completely agree with you. I still think English, obviously, long term is going to be good. But my questions, I suppose, are we waiting for Bont now? Are we still comfortable with bringing him in? Does he just get rested late in the season when they're not making finals? Because
that's
I'm not even sure if they're going to make finals, guys.
that is a valid consideration. I think someone messaged me about it as well. Now, if you have plenty of trades up your bank, I think you can easily kind of say, yeah, like maybe you can play Bontempelli, he'll still average you 100 as a sure thing, even with one arm. But that is a valid consideration. When they get towards the end of the year, if they're not making finals, then they might actually say, hey, let's have surgery on that AC joint and let's just kind of park you for next year. If you have trades up your sleeve, then it's cool. You just trade him out. He'll still probably be a really good price and you can get someone else in. If you are already short on trades because you've been playing the trade game and going here, there, and everywhere, I don't think you can afford to take that risk knowing that he's injured, knowing that the Dogs are borderline 8, that if they lose a few games and they slide out, I think that's more risky than I would like to take, boys.
I'll say this, Benny, because you look at it and you go, okay, they've got the Giants and Hawks next 2 weeks. Yeah,
Yeah,
after their
but then I
bye,
have to
all
look
good.
after that.
But yeah, the Lions away, Swannies away, so it's the back-to-back road trips. The Saints, which will be no pushover. The D's, they'll lose that one. Geelong down in Geelong, then Freo, and then they finish for the Giants and Hawks again. So coming into those last 2 games against the Giants and Hawks, they could be way out of contention because it's very possible they don't win one of those games in that stretch.
Yeah.
Bailey Smith's bound to get frustrated, just headbutt people for sure.
Well, and the thing with Bailey Smith, he's missing the 2 games, which is their 2 easiest games to score. Like, he's
Yeah.
not going to, like, what's he going to score at Geelong? And like in Sydney and Brisbane, like away games.
Oh, because the bye doesn't even count.
No,
Oh,
it
that
doesn't. So
sucks.
he's missing their 2 easiest games.
Oh,
So
that sucks,
it's
man.
like
He'd be
it's not too
yeah.
bad. The ones you kind of want with Bailey Smith and Bont's injury is, if you're going to go one, it's probably either Treloar or Libba. But
Yeah.
outside of that, I don't know if I want to even touch these dogs with that
Libba's
draw.
leading the CBAs right now.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have Libba right now than any of the other dogs.
Yeah.
So that's a consideration if you still need a dog next week. Libba, have a look at him and Libba's scoring profile has been pretty consistent for the year, but it's obviously always linked to his forward mid split. When he plays more mid time, he can score well. But when he plays a lot more forward time, he scores very poorly, and his floor reflects that. So, yeah, right now he's obviously trending more in the guts. He probably will for the next couple of weeks at least while Bailey Smith's out. So for an immediate bump, I think Libba's probably the one. But yeah, you'll just have to.
Even he'll get frustrated. Like, even he showed last week he gets frustrated.
Yeah.
And that. So he's always a chance that, it's not out of the question he wrestles someone and clips someone and misses a week too. So
it's like a good Jet Li movie, boys. I will be the one.
Well, just to for case in point, that Libba's 5-round average is 110. So, he's.
I think he's a good
the
shake
one
if Bont doesn't play as well. If Bont actually does get rested or have surgery or say put him on ice, he is literally the direct beneficiary to him not playing. So
I think Bont keeps
it's a good shake.
playing until they can't.
He's captain
mathematically
too. He's
can't.
captain.
But once
He's
they
captain,
mathematically can't, and that could come after those road trips to Brisbane and Sydney.
Well,
and it'll be the club tapping
if
into.
If Richmond,
their ladder position.
It's all based on Richmond, Gold Coast, and Collingwood. If the 3 teams keep winning, and the Dogs drop a couple of those games, all of a sudden they're 2-3 games behind. They're not catching that group.
Mate, they're cooked. Gold Coast will win more games for the rest of the year than the Bulldogs
absolutely they will.
Based on their form right now, can you, outside of the next 2 and the last 2, are they winning any of those middle 6?
Maybe St Kilda.
So in that case, they're only getting 11 wins.
But have a look more so. Look at the top 8. Who's falling out? Collingwood's probably the most vulnerable. Carlton, Sydney, Saints, Geelong, Fremantle, Brisbane, Melbourne. They all look like they're going to hold their strong, right?
Saints have got the toughest draw of the lot. The others, no problems.
But they're also on 32.
Yeah,
they're also,
that's right.
So they've already got 8 wins. So they only need a few more. Collingwood's still the most vulnerable, and they are a young team. So I think
after this week, mate, we'll cement our
yeah, but there's nothing solidified because then you've got the Bulldogs, Richmond, Gold Coast, Port Adelaide, all chasing that spot.
Well,
so I think it's going to be really hard to finish.
Don't get me wrong. I don't think we will win this week. But if Pies do beat Melbourne this week, they're a lock for the finals.
So you've got,
because the fixture for the rest of the year is pretty soft, and they'll only need 3 more wins.
Yeah.
So
you've got this week,
wins.
which
as
Thursday
soft as
night.
Dane Swan boxing.
That is
we'll know
the shittest advertising I've ever seen in my life.
We'll know a lot come Thursday night how that sits.
Is that happening this week?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, no one's going to watch it. They're going to be too hungover and piss drunk from the State of Origin tomorrow night.
No, we're talking about the Richmond game, buddy. But
but I was going to say,
I was talking about Dane Swan. Both are irrelevant.
Yeah. Well, Thursday night, you'll know more if we knock over Port. That keeps us, in contention with Collingwood. Yeah. But I think it's round 15, which is. Have you guys seen round 15's fixture? That is like
I'm looking now.
The most like the greatest fixture ever for a round. Like it's a tipping nightmare.
That's a hot contest.
Yeah, we'll know coming out of that. We'll have a real good idea of how things really sit.
For those playing at home, Melbourne, Brisbane.
Yeah.
Western Bulldogs and Hawks. So based on the moment, it's pretty hard.
That's a line in the sand game. If Dogs don't win that, they've got no chance.
Yeah.
Mate, Eagles versus Essendon, but it's at Optus.
In Optus, so that's 50-50.
That's 50-50. Carlton and the Dockers. Geelong and Richmond, but it's at the MCG.
So that's home game. Love that.
Then Sydney and Saints. North and Adelaide, but it's at Tassie, so that really balances it again. Yeah. Collingwood and Giants.
That's the only lock.
MCG. That's
the
a
only
favorite.
lock of the round.
And then Port and Suns, you'd have to tip Port at home. But that again, you're right, Swizz, mate.
that is
You are like a prodigy.
I'll shout out to like Grimo and my mate Toddy we were talking about today, and we're like, that is just like mouth-watering round for the AFL. And we'll know a
fuck
lot
Grimo.
Just
about...
working
This is
out
all
what
you,
I'm doing
Swizz.
that
It's
weekend,
all you.
guys.
Yeah, it's all
and
me.
Watching
yes,
footy.
I am going to be stuck to the couch. Yep.
Is that part of your sweat? Is it, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Sweating
think I'm
to
going
the
to be
bed
sick
sheets.
that weekend. I got the black lung.
Can we touch on forwards quickly? Because we know how we spoke about
I
10
think we've
points
been
per
touching on
average.
forwards.
We have.
mate.
Mate,
No,
the
I know.
only-
I meant is there?
well,
No. I meant anyone that's already had the bye because we haven't really
It's
touched
only-
on shit.
it's only Butters. And would you bring him in? No. But he's
If you're
averaging... What's
copying
he
a
averaging
donut-
last three? 108, I think, off the top of my head.
I'd rather bring in Cameron than Butters this week if I needed a player for
Yeah,
this week
well,
specifically.
The two, as we said, it's Libba next week, or it's the two Geelong boys. Their draw, Hawkins, Cameron, even maybe Mitchie Duncan, but Cameron and Hawkins
Hey,
on the
Can we-
on the run home. Like, get up their draw, Geelong's draw for the run home, mate.
boys, can we talk about our keeper league real quick? How I got a trade through. I
This is
got
bullshit.
Hawkins, I got Charlie Cameron, and I got Tex Walker, who all went absolutely massive this week. I think I had about 1,000-point win.
Tex
in
Walker's
our
like
keeper
the
league.
8th highest averaging forward. So averaging 100.
Oh, it was so good. I
Just
gave
wrong.
up. Yeah.
No, but in
anyway.
serious, mate, that Geelong draw, Hawkins and Cameron on the run home. That's the one that you kind of want to look at maybe for your F6, or if you could perfect.
What about Duncan? Is Duncan going to
Duncan's in
come
contention,
back?
but then what happens with Dangerfield, Menegola come back in? How does that all
Menengola's
sit?
a good shake. Good shake for draft leagues. I picked him up in about 2 or 3 this week. Menengola, I think's definitely unders.
Yep.
He has to play midfield. Duncan's going elsewhere. Danger's kind of hit and miss. They really do need him in that midfield. So Menengola's a good shake. Wow, West Coast straight up next week. Richmond, North. Yeah, okay. So a little bit tougher through that middle part and then finishing off pretty good again with Suns and Eagles. For draft leagues and draft finals, even standard, I don't mind. So Duncan's been disappointing, hey?
Mate, I would rather Jeremy
100,
Cameron
110.
playing West Coast twice and North Melbourne. Like, I'm trying to work out how I get in Jeremy Cameron into my team.
What's he priced at? Is it worth it? Can we fix it? 490. He went up 42,000 this week.
The answer to that riddle
he's
is
up
no,
and down,
guys,
though.
because I mean,
No.
for guys that have Darcy Cameron, he's only 10k more. You may as well just go him.
Well, he has a better stability through his side for sure.
Yeah, but I'm basing on that fixture in the run home. And how many games do Geelong have? Like, they've got like 5 games down at Geelong. And the difference is, where in those previous years where they've already been up there and they can rest players and that, this is their crack. They've got a chance they could still finish top now with Melbourne slipping a couple of games if they really belt some teams. And so, yeah, that's just kind of my left field option. I'm thinking on the run home.
Look, I don't mind that left field option. This will probably be the last thing we touch on because we are scraping the barrel here, boys. Richmond have got a pretty good defense. Melbourne have got a good defense. Carlton as well.
Jez always carves us up.
Yeah, Carlton as well. No, but still, you still have a pretty good defensive
it's
lineup.
annoying. I was annoyed Jez went 153 this week. I was thinking, he'll at best he might go 100 against the doggies, so he'd still be at a good price. But it's sort of annoying. But what's he going to like playing West Coast and North twice? There is a
tough
world
matchup.
come that last round. If Hawkins or Cameron were within say 6 of each other, I'm going to say they're going to be dual Coleman medalists. I think
Don't say West Coast and North twice. They play West Coast
no,
twice.
I said they've
North
got West
once.
Coast twice and they've got North.
But
got
yeah,
the
you're
Dogs.
right. Even Bulldogs and Port
Bulldogs in
Adelaide are
Geelong.
kind of struggling for tall timber. Gold Coast are actually, I think they're probably better defensively than they get credit for. But you're right. Outside of that, May's probably suspended or injured in round 17. Let's face it. I don't mind it as a bit of a left field shake. More for draft leagues, etc. I'd be trying to sort of trade those players in if you can. Look at yours truly and how that worked out last week. But for standard, I think the top sort of 6 to 8 are far and beyond more than anything that you could ask for. I do not want variance. I do not want to be losing or winning by the whim of my seat.
I don't like
with
Hawkins
these players.
as much because he relies more on those goals and he gives too many goal assists. But Cameron actually gets up the ground a lot, plays that sort of centre half forward who, he takes marks at centre half back and then works back. Like, I think the other day he had like 20 touches or something. So he can find the ball.
I think this wraps us up, boys.
Yeah,
Chris is there.
it's all
Look,
good.
see, Swizz,
I'm
look
just
what you've
waiting for
done to
you
the
guys.
podcast.
I
Look
know.
what you've done for the podcast. This guy's zoned out. Talking, he's sitting there going, are these guys really talking about fucking Hawkins
Geelong.
and
I'm
fucking
so
Cameron?
He's hearing
He's
about
zoning
Geelong.
out,
So
saying,
2000 and what, late? I don't know.
we said an hour and you're going 5 minutes over cap. I'll send you the invoice. You're talking about shit fucking Geelong
It's
players.
almost 9
Wrap
o'clock.
it
I've got
up.
bed to go to.
Oh, here
Yeah,
we go.
see.
Here
Hey,
we
mate,
go.
you've already got like 4 kids, right? You need to calm down. That's it from us, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned for our team podcast. Swizz, when are you recording yours?
Mate, I might do mine soon. Yeah.
Right. Chris, when do you think about doing your team podcast?
I'll probably do mine tomorrow before jumping on Jock's mailbag tomorrow night. So
Yep.
keep an eye out for that one, guys.
Mate, that's a hefty mailbag. I will check into that, mate. Oi, the Jock Boys, give them a shout out. They are a really nice bunch. I will do mine Thursday night because I can't think of much more pressing things that will be on television or at the forefront of my mind for a
Benny,
Thursday evening.
do a live cross with me at the G.
Mate, if I do a live cross with you, I will be cross. Cheers, shout out. Let us know how you're traveling through these buy rounds. Let us know how you are traveling. Are you looking at a donut? Are you scraping for every single rookie and premium you can get this week? Or are you sitting large like Chris thinking, hey, isn't life great not having Max Scorn? Are you thinking like Swizz going, hey, fuck, maybe I'll give Nank a big shout out and risk it for the biscuit? Let us know what you're thinking because this is the time of possibilities. No one knows who's going to average the most for the last 10 rounds. Get amongst it. Get some bargains, pay some prices, and let us know how you're traveling. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers, guys.
So, yeah.
Bye.